DTC Live On Air is powered by Bright Pill by Sage. In today's episode, we'll be talking with co-founder of Shakeup Cosmetics, Jake, about what it means to truly go international and the highs and lows of building a disruptive brand. Hope you enjoy. Jake, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about you, your role, and a bit about Shakeup as well.
I'm one of the two co-founders. I co-founded Shakeup Cosmetics with my twin brother, Shane. And Shakeup Cosmetics is a UK-based men's skincare and cosmetic brand. We manufacture our products here in the UK, and we also export to multiple countries. We provide a range of solution-driven, very tight range of efficacious products for men's skin type and skin concerns. And our price point is kind of like a bang in the middle between the mass grocery brands and the super luxury department store brands, where there seems to be a vacuum that we just want to fill that gap in the market.
And how do you describe the brand today in comparison to where it was when you first started?
Gosh, quite different actually, because I mean, so many different aspects as well. You know, one from the demographic, the customer base. You launch a brand, you think your customers looks like that, but actually not. Once you've launched it, you started seeing the results and seeing the data, you realize actually they're quite different to how you imagine them to be. So I'll give you an example. When we launched the brand, and actually when we started talking to investors or other people about the brand, and the immediate response would be, okay, well, the younger generations and Gen Z, and you know, because there's no stigma around men using skincare, they're much more fluid with their sexuality and their self-expression and all of that. But actually, now looking at our data, 6 years in, our biggest demographic is 37 to 55 male in the UK, right? And then they are all walks of life. They're not just LGBTQ community. They are, you know, we look at the data and then they're like tradesmen, they're postmen, they're construction workers. They're, in a way, it's really good to know that actually the validation is there. You know, the demand is there from everyday guys rather than just a small niche group of guys. So that's quite interesting. And the product development side as well is they got to follow what the customers is asking for rather than just to think, yeah, I think they need this. I think they need that. Initially, we launched the color range, which is still, the BB cream is still our best seller globally. But ever since then, we started going to other area and such as grooming, beard serum and things like that, which is just purely down to the demand from the customers, which wasn't on the roadmap before when we first launched. So I feel like for any brand, not just D2C brands, it's constant evolution, isn't it? And I think, you know, at some point they always look back thinking, gosh, how did we get here? Whether that's branding or demographic or customer product assortment, they all sort of change over time, and then you just have to keep adapting.
So what was the light bulb moment before you started the brand? Was there anything that kind of led you to that moment?
I think it was rather than a light bulb moment, it was more of a small, like slow burn, like a stew being boiled.
Bubbling
away in the background. You know, me and Shane were Chinese British. We moved here in our teenage years, and being Asian men, we were brought up with the knowledge of like take care of your skin. And actually in China, Korea, Singapore, those kind of places, for men to look after their skin is quite normal. You know, it's part of the everyday routine and is a good trait for guys to look after their skin. It's not a stigma. It's not a femininity. It's not something that you're ashamed of. So the culture is quite different. When we moved here to the UK, we did struggle to find premium quality skincare products that are for men. Yes, we could use women's products, but a lot of the products were formulated for women's skin type, which tends to be drier than men. And for men's skin tends to be oilier, and we want something that's fresher, mattifying, rather than dewy and glowy, which tends to be the trend for women's products. So we really did have a hard time finding the right products for ourselves. And also the stigma was just there, and it was really hard to break down. And in terms of the products that were on the market, and it's still the case now, I would argue, you either have to settle for the kind of cheap mass grocery brands, or you had to shell out to get the Kiehl's or Tom Ford of the world, you know, in department stores. In between that, in that space in between is very much of a vacuum.
Yeah.
And I think if you go into like beauty stores like Boots or Superdrug, the men's section is always kind of like in a corner somewhere, and with the light flickering on top, and and the brands in that section has been quite stale. It was the same 5-6 brands for the last 10 years probably. You can't think of any more than that. So there's no innovation, there's no excitement, there's definitely no like effort put into that space. So I think that has been bothering us all these years. Prior to Shakeup, we ran a marketing agency, and we worked predominantly with beauty brands. Boots, Number 7 Cosmetics was a big client of ours. Soap and Glory was a big client of ours. So we learned the beauty marketing through that business. So over the years, thinking, actually, we know how to present a brand. We know how to market a product. We as consumers have this need, and that's not being fulfilled. Why don't we combine the two together and create a brand for people who are just like us?
Yeah.
It really was a passion project to start with, and then you got real.
What have we done?
I know. And the roller coaster just, you can't get off.
So what was like launch like then for you guys? So you've had this idea, you've gone through production, started like developing. Then how did the launch happen? I imagine with having the agency and the marketing knowledge, like it gave you a leg up a little bit from getting the brand out there.
It did and it didn't. I think we thought we knew a lot about beauty world because of the marketing background that we had, but developing the product itself is a whole new ball game. It's just a different beast. So it was still very much of a steep learning curve, but it definitely helped us, in terms of the connections that we had from previous business, and also knowing how to present the brand and the assets and the importance of marketing, language and things like that. That helped for sure. When we started to look into the formulation of the products, it took overall about 18 months from initial idea to getting the products signed off. It took that long. And we were looking for the manufacturer in the UK who are reputable and they can create great products, and they're also very compliant. We want a bona fide, really established chemistry houses to work with us so that they can scale with us. And that was quite hard because initially we reached out to this company and I was so naive, and I went to them thinking, I'm coming to you with a business with a check in hand. Everybody will be so glad to talk to us. And I got on the phone and spoke to this lady who I still have a relationship with, actually. She's fabulous. And I just gave her earful in terms of like what I was thinking about doing. I was so passionate, so just gave her the whole spiel. And then she just stopped me half sentence. She's like, okay, we don't just take any meetings. Like, we have capacity limitations as well. I want you to tell me more about what is it you want to do. And because taking on indie brands is a quite rare for big established houses like that. I was thinking,
is that because of like the scale? Like, are they investing time into something that's not necessarily going to take off? Like, what is that the?
It's a risk factor, isn't it? Because they don't know how long you're going to be. You might not be in business in a year's time, and you have these products made. Are you going to be able to sell it? And also, they had to go into developing the products for you, and a lot of that is not paid until it's amortized into the first production. So it's a lot of work that they need to put in order to take on a client like that. And then she was amazing. And I don't want to offend anyone, but she did say, okay, well, thank God. So at the end of the spiel, she was like, okay, I get it. I'm buying into it. Let's set up a meeting. She was like, I'm so glad that you didn't come to me to say you're another Instagram influencer, wanted to create your own brand, because I would have hung up on you right there and then. I was like, I like that no BS approach, I was like, I respond to that, I like you. And then we set up a meeting, and actually, fortunately, this manufacturer really liked our idea, and we became their first indie brands that they took on. And until this day, we're still working with them together. And they've been very supportive. And then we had the products made, and then it came to launch. And we had the website set up. You naturally think, okay, well, we've done all that background work, we've done some social content, did a bit of seeding, you switch the website on, I might have a sellout, first week or whatever.
What am I going to do if we run out of product?
Yeah, exactly. We sold like 3 on first. I was so disheartened.
It's better than none, though.
It's better than none. Yeah. I mean, now looking back, it's like, you can sort of, you can sort of look at it with a different perspective. But back then I was so disappointed. But once again, just another learning step. It's all every day is school day ever since we launched, to be honest.
And what gave you the momentum after that launch? After only 3 sales, what was next?
I think quite quickly we became, we realized that everything will always take longer than you think, and that everything will cost a lot more than you think. And it's not going to be easy. I never expect it to be easy, but we expect the traction to catch on, right? Yeah. But, it does take work. Through our connections, we did, very fortunately, we got invited to participate in this competition. It was called Future of Beauty, the next beauty brand in the UK sort of thing, and it was hosted by the British Beauty Council, and we were invited to participate. And we didn't even launch at that point. We had a prototype, we had the idea, and we're about to launch. So we entered. We actually became runner-up of that competition, which I was really, really surprised, but very honored to have done that. And I think, it was also the validation from the industry telling us that there's a need for it. We're doing the right thing. We're on the right path. And just happens that on the judging panel, it was one of the ladies on the judging panel was the buyer at Harvey Nichols. So after the competition, we got the meeting with them, and we launched. 2 weeks after we officially launched, we went into Harvey Nichols, all 9 stores online, and
that's unheard of, isn't it?
Yeah, that was really big scoop for us, especially for the indie brands, fresh, new, just onto the market, and it was really, really exciting. And we always wanted to be seen in department stores or on high street at least, because D2C, yes, is a great battleground, is a great place for us to be, and that's where a lot of the male consumers will purchase our products from. But to normalize and democratize men's skincare, we needed to be seen. We needed to normalize the whole concept of having men's skincare in those shopping arenas, the shopping centers. I think that's the only way for guys to say, okay, well, if Boots carry it, if Harvey Nichols carry it, that means it must be okay for me to buy it, right? And also give the brands the credibility, the authenticity as well. So that was really, really a good boost for us. But then 3 weeks, I think, after we launched Harvey Nichols, COVID hit. Oh. And then Harvey Nichols had to shut for, I think, altogether maybe 15 months, if not longer. So that's when we had to pivot. So that's, ever since then, we're just trying to...
Yeah.
This goes back to your earlier question. You're constantly learning and adapting, and because the things will never play out the way that you planned. And there's one thing certain, is that your plan will never stick.
Yeah. So. It's always going to change.
Yeah.
And now what's your retail to D2C split?
We now have we're quite omni-channel now. In the UK, we're quite heavy on D2C, Amazon and our website. We're in Morley's department stores at the moment. We did have to come out of Harvey Nichols because of COVID and repivot. And internationally, we're very much working with the distributors in different countries, and then they will then have our products listed in the pharmacies or department stores. So, for example, in Spain, we have just launched into Hippocor, which is part of the Alcoringle chain. And in Norway, we launched into over 600 pharmacies over there as well. I think it's all very much down to the market itself.
Yeah.
The consumer's buying behavior in each market would dictate where we need to be. In China, for example, we're very much online social commerce, e-commerce brand, because that's just how people buy things over there.
What determined where you was going to go next after the initial launch? Once you'd kind of got into the UK and settled, you was running it. What was the next logical step for you to go?
I think COVID changed our plan completely. It turned it upside down in a way, because the plan was to create this brand in the UK and have our home market developed, mature, and then we go international, because by then you've got the credibility, you've got some sales data, you understand your brand a bit more, you've got a bigger product assortment, all of that. But when COVID hit, UK went into a bit of hibernation, right? And a lot of the D2C brands did thrive during COVID, but we're too young. We're not known yet to really ride that wave, unfortunately. And given such a niche category, and also in a category where education cost is so high, we just were not able to ride that COVID online hype, that a lot of the other brands benefit from. So we either sit and die because there's no revenue coming in. Harvey Nichols was not selling either, obviously, because the stores are closed, or we pivot. But thanks to the Harvey Nichols launch, we had loads of like PR assets, videos, interviews, and store visits, all of that. We felt at that point we have enough evidence to then approach at least some of the international distributors to tell them about this brand. And being Chinese British, we understand the language, we understand the consumer behavior. And to be honest, international expansion was in the core of our business plan right from day one anyway. So we thought, actually, let's just accelerate that and focus on developing that market while UK sort of go through its own phase and then COVID, lockdowns, whatever. And if you remember, at the beginning of COVID, China managed to keep the situation under control quite well. And later on, it was the other way around. But at the beginning, for the first maybe 15, 18 months, China was actually still kind of like trading as normal internally. So by July 2020, we have secured a distributor in China and launched on Tmall there. And within 3 months, we're doing run rate of £120,000 monthly sales on that platform with just one single product. So, I think we benefited from the COVID online hype in China somehow rather than the UK. So as a British brand, it's quite unconventional of doing things. We're basically like China became our home market in a way, and then or second home market if you like, and then we sort of developed international for 2 or 3 years, a good 2 or 3 years before we shifted our focus back to the UK.
It's such a different way of approaching it, isn't it? Do you think if you didn't have the connection to China already, would you have perhaps gone to that market, or would you have tried something closer to home? And I suppose it's
really hard to say, and I think I have thought about this before, and I really don't know what would be the alternative, because this is the only alternative, the only universe that I know. That's just our circumstances meant that this is the way, this is the path we chose to go down. And it is unconventional. I mean, Chinese market for a lot of the UK brands is probably the last market that people want to crack. Because
there's so many like the culture, the language, like it's difficult, I suppose, for them to break into. Like, what advice would you have for British brands that want to explore going into like the Chinese market?
I think having someone on the ground, and also having someone, if you don't have anyone on the ground, at least have someone who speaks the language in your team here, because it's so important and things get lost in translation. And it's not just lost in the translation in the language perspective. It's not about what you say, it's how you say it. The culture differences and the kind of mutual respect and how you deal with Chinese businessmen business people, I guess, is very different. And then you need that culture understanding in order to get your point across. Otherwise, sometimes that you could really get like that. And we looked into a few cases when we were running the agency. We were trying to deal with these kind of like conflicts between our client and their Chinese distributor. We could see where the problem happened, like how it happened, and sometimes just very innocent misunderstanding is a one word that's translated wrong, whereas something else, it's nothing's really that fundamental, but yet the relationship was on the verge of breaking down. So having someone understanding that culture is so important. If you don't have the need for the third party, the translation, that barrier, and you can just have the point across directly, is so important.
Do you think that it's best to go in through like one of the marketplaces or a platform, or through like the distribution, rather than trying to launch D2C there?
Yeah, I think launching D2C in China is not gonna. I mean, the China D2C is completely different landscape to us, right? I mean, nobody buys from like a branded website over there. Everything is everything's a marketplace. Tmall, which is part of the Alibaba's network, and then you've got a JD, which now they have expanded to the UK now called Joybuy. So that's the same company. And then you've got TikTok, of course, the Chinese version of TikTok. Everything's like marketplace. Everything is on either social commerce or e-commerce platform. So you can't launch a branded website and sell directly and then do 3PL like the same system. Doesn't work. Doesn't work.
Oh, it's interesting.
And then the social landscape is different. You know, Meta doesn't exist there. It doesn't exist there. You have to work with WeChat and have to work with other platforms that is quite unique to the Chinese consumers. So I would definitely say that if you are thinking about launching to China, marketplaces will be the place you need to be. But I wouldn't recommend UK business to run it themselves. You know, find the trade partner, what they call TP, or find a distributor who will handle the whole operations for you and be your sole representative in that country, in that marketplace, because they know how to operate. They know what makes their consumers buy.
Has there been any growth opportunities that you've deliberately said no to, either because it didn't feel right for you as founders, or it just didn't feel like where you wanted to take the brand?
Yeah, I think US market is the one that we have deliberately not touched yet.
And that's interesting as well, because normally it's like brands would say like UK and then we're going into the US.
Yep, exactly. I mean, that's the thing, you know, our business it's almost like the other way around when it compares to a lot of other UK businesses. But UK market is so important. You know, we didn't touch it not because it's not important, it's because it's too important to mess up. And I think US is almost like a graveyard of UK brands who went into the US without knowing fully what it takes to make it work there.
Yeah.
It's so expensive. And they're, especially the big box retailers, and then their terms could be so harsh. You know, if you don't hit the velocity and you're out, and then it's a seller return, and you could really break a brand. And especially if you're looking at like a really high count, door count, and then that could really put a lot of strain on the cash flow as well. So, and also if you're looking at exit, you know, having US market as the flesh left on the bone is not a bad thing. No. You know, for a big conglomerate who might be the suitor for you, and you know that could be something that can easily switch on rather than, say, another market that might be quite difficult to activate.
Yeah, or that you've tried and tested all of them. It's not quite worked in one, and then it's kind of switched you off from trying it again, which might look bad in their eyes as well.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to burn the bridges, you know, and you better to leave that as a virgin territory, and then you can leave all the imaginations that you just showed the stats in other markets and success you have built, and then for them to fill that gap. I feel like the US is, because there's no language barrier for the UK businesses. Therefore, we kind of underestimate how difficult it will be to crack that market. But don't get me wrong, you know, like if we were in that situation, if China was an option, we might have to consider that, you know, in our circumstances, because otherwise, where would you go? You know, and I think you have to pick somewhere to crack. I'm not saying that, you know, you shouldn't go for the US market, but if you're prepared and ready for it, know all the risks and have the right funding in place, and then, yeah, for sure, that's a huge potential to unlock.
Do you see yourself as being in a competitive and crowded space with the brand? If we look at like beauty as a whole, like that is competitive, but are we thinking more about that as, you know, when it's specifically for women, like when you're operating in the men's category, do you find that it's less competitive, or?
It's less competitive, but it's more challenging.
Yeah.
I think, you know, it's definitely not easier, but you are right. You know, beauty and cosmetic as a whole is quite a saturated red ocean, like dark burgundy ocean. But in this red ocean, the men's section is actually quite a rare find. It's a bit of a blue ocean in the whole ecosystem, in the whole category. There aren't that many brands in this space competing, so that is advantage for us. You know, we can more easily or more cost effectively make a noise when we launch the brand, when we launch a product, when we talk to our consumers. It's not as noisy as women's. But with men, however, the education cost is much higher, and trying to convince them to try our products or to switch their products, their current routine, or to upgrade from their existing products to something like ours it takes a lot more than convincing a lady or a woman to try a different brand, because, you know, like men, we didn't generally speaking, we didn't grow up with aunties and sisters playing makeup together. And we were told to toughen up. We're told to men don't cry. We're told to you don't use skincare, soap and water is fine. Those are the kind of like traits, and that's the blueprint that we have been following to break that down, rebuilding it with a new narrative, and then tell guys that it's okay to look after your skin and why it's so important to look after your skin, and how looking good equals to feeling good equals to good mental health. That itself, the work has not been done by most of the brands before.
Yeah.
Therefore, for us to go into that space, that part is challenging. It's more difficult to convince the guys to come into the fold, to try the products. Once they have tried it, they love it. And we have 46% return customer rate. We know the products stick. We know the products are great. But it's getting that guys to make that initial purchase is the challenging bit.
And where have you seen the most success in getting them to try that first?
Solution driven. Our products are solution driven. We're not just about wishy-washy. I mean, they have great ingredients, but we hardly mention them because that's just not something guys buy into.
Yeah.
Some might, once again, I'm generalizing here, but most of the guys, they just want to know, does that do this? I have this problem. Does it solve it? That's all they want to know. I think, from our content or marketing point of view, what works the best is really just showing this is the pain point, whether that's visually or from language, we kind of really kind of tuck on that string. And then the guys get immediately engaged with our conversation, and we tell them, this is what you use, this is how you use it, and this is the result you can expect. And then that tends to work the best with men. It's just, very straightforward and very visual. And we don't really have the patience, to be honest, to just wait for 6 or 8 weeks to see any result, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So from the product development point of view, we want to make sure that our products have instant results, whether that is visual result or efficacy in terms of the ingredients, or whether it's just sensory results or smell or whatever, something that actually sort of give the guys the instant gratification when they use our products. Those kind of things work better.
Do you find that they are interested in product discovery? Like when they're landing on the site, are they looking for things that complement maybe the ad that's brought them in for that single product? Do you find that it's easy to cross-sell to them, or are they, in the mindset of get in, get out with the shopping experience?
It's a very good question, actually. And I think it's more of a get in, get out on the first purchase.
Yeah.
But what's really great about male consumers is that men are quite brand loyal. And if we have found something that we love, we don't tend to shift.
Don't change.
We'll stick to it. I'll ask for it for Christmas each year. And then actually another thing is that if I like a product that's by this brand, I will go back and see what else they do. And I'll buy the same products from the same brand. So what we're seeing on our D2C, the pattern seems to be they come in through the ad and they will buy the product they actually have been exposed to. And then you will see the second order to come back and buying the same products, maybe 2 or 3 different products, not even necessarily complementing it, because I don't think they know yet.
It's not about routine building necessarily. It's
very much about that looks interesting.
Yeah.
There's a moisturizer. Those kind of like face wash moisturizer seems to be the one they buy the second because they know that's safe, that they need it. So you will see them expanding their range. And then a third might be a subscription because now they like it so much they don't want to run out, and they don't want the hassle of having to remember to buy it. So that pattern can really follow their psychology in a way. So that's quite interesting. But I don't think they window shop, or I don't think they're not like women. They're not that curious when it comes to discovering the range of products on the first purchase.
And it's interesting how it is around the psychology of a shopper and a demographic, and understanding what they're looking for, how they're looking, how to show them what they need and guide them through that whole funnel.
Yeah,
from start to finish.
Exactly. And this actually translates to our offline display as well. So when we launched in department stores or when we launched in Boots, the tray, on-shelf tray design was deliberately designed to focus on solutions. We didn't actually sort of put moisturizer, face wash, serum, or eye cream. It wasn't led by product type. We actually sort of categorized them for dry skin, for blemish coverage, for acne skin. So I think those are the language that the guys are shopping with in mind. I feel like for guys to go into Boots, for example, unless they're actually accompanying their lady friends doing a bit of shopping, if they go into to store to buy something, they either know exactly what they want and go in and grab it and go, or they going with a burning question or problem in their head and looking for a solution. So they're not necessarily going to store, I'm going to go buy a serum today. They don't think like that. They go into, I've got this acne, I've got this spot, and I constantly have this, post-shaving rash. I need something for that. So when you tell them this is for acne skin, and then that immediately grab their attention. But if you just say this is a face wash or face mask, there's a bit of a disconnect.
Yeah. Have you noticed that your role has changed as a founder as you've grown through the business and with your co-founder as well, like your brother? Like, what's kind of changed in your mindset on how you're running the business or marketing the business?
It is constantly changing, to be honest. I think to start with, we had hesitation of putting our face forward as the face of the brand. Because even though we are the consumers, we feel their pain, but being a UK brand and being a Chinese British, it's quite difficult to actually sort of make myself relate to our 99% of our demographic. Do you know what I mean? I mean, it's a tricky balance. I don't look like the stereotypical our core demographic customer, even though I am one of us or one of them. So putting your face out there is quite difficult, because you don't want to create this box that you sort of box yourself into, and then immediately you're kind of alienating a lot of other people that might benefit from your product.
Yeah.
So we decided earlier on that we wouldn't be a sort of founder-led brand in terms of marketing language. It was very much just talking about the product itself, the brand ethos, being B Corp, and also how we help our customers. And we let the results from our real customers speak for themselves. And those kind of UGC content, which we value a lot, showing the results, especially using the BB cream, for example, how rosacea just suddenly disappeared and actually looking so subtle and so undetectable. Those kind of things work much better, and they're much more relatable to our customers than us jumping on the screen and talking about it. But over time, I do feel like that actually authenticity and the brand story is important.
Yeah.
People do buy from story, and then people buy from people. And I think there needs to be a personality behind the brand. So we started to come out of our shell a little bit more, and rather than talking about ourselves personally, we like to talk about our journey, our skin journey. And I like to jump on TikTok or Instagram and showing my rosacea. I will literally just use a wet wipe and actually wipe off the products and actually show the real skin texture and then reapply to show the customers actually you can be done. You don't need a brush, you don't need a sponge, you don't need a technique. It's literally a 30 seconds job, and actually can look as fresh as you ever want it to be. So those kind of things we started doing that more and more. And it's we're encouraged by our customers sharing their story. And that's how we came to the conclusion. If we like their story, they must like ours. I think that is the kind of like the aha moment. So, we should start sharing our own journey, because at the end of the day, that's what resonate with our customers.
And did you notice a positive reaction when you did start to put yourselves out there a little bit more? Was it a good thing that you've done for the brand by doing that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, haters gonna hate, right? I mean, there's still, we're talking about social media here. So you do have every now and then you do have to battle the homophobia, and then also the kind of like a toxic masculinity sort of jumping on and feel like they have to say something. But I'm okay with that. I'm fine to annoy the 80% in order to activate the 20%, and that's fine. But generally speaking, we get a lot of positive reaction to us sharing our story. And when we go to trade shows, and I remember this one time, we went to the Barbers Connect show, and part of the security team was, I think he was probably early 60s. I don't know for sure, but he was walking around the hall, but obviously saw our stand. And then I noticed him like sort of walking by a few times looking at the product. So I knew that he was interested. And towards the end, and I think he came over and he asked me to try our BB tinted moisturizer on his face. I could see that he's got rosacea. He's got rosacea red patches and a bit of a texture change on his nose as well. And I applied the products for him. And then he looked in the mirror. And I kid you not, he was, in his early 60s and clearly, probably never tried a product like that before. He said, oh my God, he was speechless. He was like, I've not looked like this for about 20 years.
Oh.
And it turns out it was his son's wedding the following Monday. And he was really worried that he would ruin the day, the wedding photo, the way that he looked with his face.
Awful.
So... And that really kind of like struck me, and I gave him the products, of course, and then like he was so happy, and I think I hope that he sort of used it on the wedding day and actually felt like his best and his most confident in years for his son's wedding, and knowing that he's gonna look his best in the photos for years to come. Those kind of things is the one I really want to get across to the customers. That's why we do what we do. That's why we go through all these challenges, despite how hard it is to build a brand.
Yeah.
And I think, those kind of stories are just heartwarming.
DTC Live On Air is powered by Bright Pill by Sage. And what about like mistakes that you've made? I mean, as
you haven't got long enough.
But what's cost you the most time, the most money, and then what kind of made you think, oh shit, this is a mistake, we shouldn't have done this, and then you've had to pivot and go back? We don't just want the successes.
Oh, no. No, the successes are the 1%, right? Like I said, 99% of it's just not great. Product development side, I think earlier on, we thought that we knew what the customers needed. So we would launch our products and thinking it's going to fly, but actually, some of the products just didn't.
And that's an expensive mistake, isn't it? If you've got all them products out there.
Yeah. And actually, the downside of working with established OEMs, manufacturers, is that their minimum order quantity is high. Mm-hmm. You can't go for like 500 units just to try it. We're talking about 8,000, 10,000 at least. So if you have a product that flopped and then you've got so much cash tied into the stock and you can't shift it, that really does become an issue. So we did make some mistakes on the product development. The whole team were all behind it. We all, the stats backed it up, the data backed it up, but actually you quickly realize the data and the market trend and things like that doesn't really... It's not 100%. You got to speak to the customers and they will tell you what they want. And then you had to listen. So that would be one of the mistakes. And another one, probably watch the cash, right? Because as you develop the brand, as you expand your product assortment and go into more markets and spending more on marketing, your burn rate is gonna rise, and you might start hiring people as well, and having a closer look on your cash to making sure that you've got enough runway to do what you need to do. Because like I said earlier, things will always take longer. And actually, I realized after 6 years, some shortcuts are just not there. You feel like you can actually sort of go from A to C, bypassing something just because you've got the data, the connection. Actually, a lot of the things, you have to pay your dues. You just have to serve your time in order to get there. So for a lot of the brands, it really is a game of how much cash do you have to sustain long enough for things to happen. And it's not to say that you're not going to get your break. Some of the brands just die because they're out of cash before they even reach that point.
Yeah. And I suppose that makes it tricky on testing new initiatives, like running new campaigns, like, where should we put that budget and that spend? Like, because you've got to test different things often, haven't you? You can't just stay static on where you are. Was that ever a struggle, like especially around like marketing activations?
Always a struggle. It still is a struggle. If you know the answer, please do pass it my way. I mean, like I said, the cash is tight, right? For us, we haven't got the VC money, and we don't have a deep pocket. So the testing budget is quite tight, and you got to make sure that every penny is split in half when you spend it. I mean, we didn't know this from the beginning, don't get me wrong. I mean, it took a long time and some really hard lessons for us to get here, to realize it. But we now realize it, but that's fine, it's not too late. But it does pose the challenge where, you know, marketing or building a brand, like you said, it is about trial and error. And the very nature of that is sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So you need that funds or you need that capital to take that risk. And especially with the D2C, which is more relevant to what we're talking about, the platform is getting ever more volatile, is very unstable. And you can have ROAS of 8 in one day and ROAS 0.8 the next day. You know, how do you judge that? And what metrics do you look at? You know, are you, you know, for us, of course, you want the first purchase profitability because you want to get the caching. But at the same time, you know, it's hard to scale if you're only focusing on that. You want to look at LTV in order to make sure that over longer term you're profitable, and therefore you can actually invest a bit more on the upfront. Especially for our brand, you know, when I know the education cost is high, so you know, it's almost kind of like you're answering your own question. But without the budget or without the capital, you actually can't afford to spend that education cost in order to have that first acquisition, because it's going to compromise on your bottom line.
Yeah.
So it's a constant struggle and tug of war, really. So that's the reason why we sort of go a bit more omni-channel. You know, you can have a profitable channels through wholesale or distribution, using that money to refunnel back into D2C, because once your D2C is growing and scaling, your brand awareness is getting bigger, and then that will then in turn go back into your wholesale and offline sales as well. So it should be a healthy ecosystem, but it is a struggle when you're running on a shoestring.
What about TikTok as a channel for you guys? How's that?
Yeah, so TikTok is quite an interesting platform. At the beginning, I would say that initially I was thinking, you know, our product is too expensive on it. And also, you know, if you look at the demographic, 37-55 male, are they on TikTok? You know, so we initially didn't put much effort into it. I would admit that actually I was wrong. You know, and now thinking back, that was just so arrogant of me to think that actually that was the truth, like, you know, without looking more into it. Yes, there are less sort of, you know, 37 to 55-year-old men doing content on TikTok, perhaps, but they are there. They're consuming the content. And who's to say that actually a 20, 30 pounds moisturizer or eye cream won't sell on TikTok? I've seen evidence that actually even more products, more expensive products, are selling quite well on the platform. So I think the facts actually back it up to tell us that this is a platform that has got potential. So we have started sort of putting more effort into TikTok, and we started using GMV Max ads, and it's currently doing quite well. Our current ROAS is about 1.92, which is, you know, fairly, I mean, it can be improved, but, you know, initially I was thinking if we can get to 2 and then we'll be able to scale. We're getting there. And TikTok has been quite supportive as well. So we're now on their 3-month incubation program with Head of Beauty. They saw the potential in our brand. So we're now onto their program to work more closely with the TikTok's team for us to develop the TikTok shop business. So,
and what does that give you then? What access does that give you?
So it's a 3-month program. It's quite a new program, actually. Forgive me, I don't know the name of it, but it's sort of, apparently it sort of came down from the top level. They wanted to curate, I think, 10 or 12 different brands in the UK market, and then put into this 3-month program where TikTok's own team is going to reach out to their affiliates army network, and then get them to do the seeding and create the content, and then they will run your GMV Max ads, and they'll look at the shop score. They also subsidize part of the discounts so that they can sort of get the price down, but you don't have to subsidize as a brand. And the aim is to get the revenue to a certain level within the 3 months. And by the end of the 3 months, you have a not ready-made, but you have a really good foundation to start building, and then with all the learning and stuff. So you can then, whether you hire an agency to handle your affiliates going forward, or whether you want to hand it over to TikTok Shop for them to continue to manage it, you know, those kind of things will be decided by the end of the program. We're week 1, so it's quite a new thing. So we shall see. I'm optimistic about that.
Yeah, I mean,
channel.
I feel like that's the best in you can have it, like starting a new platform, because they're going to want you to be successful in it.
Yeah.
More than anything.
Yeah.
So that you keep keep on there.
Yeah.
So they're going to be putting everything into making sure that that foundation is as solid as it can be. So I think that sounds like it's a great opportunity to really trial and test something out.
Yeah, that's what we thought, and I think it's a great opportunity for us to jump on. It's no brainer. We just have to do it. And before this program, we did try to do live as well, and I think back then they were quite supportive as well, so they were giving us some traffic. But this is before GMV Live, GMV Max Live. So back then, there was no way to actually get additional traffic to your live. And when you didn't have a massive following, just a brand new account, it's quite hard to get the audience into the room when you're doing the live. But now with the GMV Max Live and also with the support, we're going to start doing a bit more of that as well. So with affiliates content, feeding into GMV Max, and then we're going to do live as well, get more traffic, paid traffic into it, subsidize on the pricing. So these three puzzle pieces can then finally come together. So I'm hopeful that it's going to deliver some good result.
Do you get worried about not owning the customer? Because I know that you're saying about the omnichannel approach and being across everywhere, and it's all funneling in. Does it ever worry you or concern you if other channels are outperforming D2C because you've lost that opportunity to remarket and bring them in for that repeat purchase rate?
Yeah, I mean, it is one of the worries. I mean, I wouldn't say worries. It's one of the things we just have to be mindful of.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, I mean, it's part of the game. If you play this game, you play by the rules. And I think, it's just the nature of it. And also a lot of the brands, if they're retail heavy, you don't own the customers at all.
Yeah.
If you're just relying on Boots and Superdrug and you don't own anything. And also this is the question we asked ourselves when we first went into Amazon as well, because we only had a D2C branded website back at that point. But we after we launched Amazon, we didn't see the D2C being cannibalized by Amazon. In fact, it was quite complementary. And now our D2C didn't drop. And in fact, Amazon has now come to the same level as our D2C sales. So you realize there are just certain customers who will always be buying from certain platform.
Yeah.
Amazon being quite a particular one, simply because that, guys and actually women, I would say, it's just so convenient. We'll buy anything and everything if we can on Amazon, right? You just fill out everything.
Random, isn't it?
Exactly. And Amazon is a bigger search engine than Google. I mean, people use that as a search engine now as well. So why wouldn't you there? Why wouldn't you be on there? And people on Amazon are basically buying things. You don't go into Amazon to browse, do you? No. So, you literally, all of these visits on Amazon, they're people with money in hand trying to spend. Whereas on website D2C, they're coming from Meta, they're probably checking their neighbor's dog on their feed, and then you interrupted them. So they're not coming to you with intention to buy. So that it's very high intent customers on Amazon. You just be silly not to be on there. And it's the same for TikTok and other places. I just feel like you just have to meet where the customers are. Even if that customer is basically shopping in all of these different areas, at least you've got more touch points now covered. So that itself counts for something as well.
Definitely. And if someone looked at your strategy today that you've kind of set up with Shakeup, where would it fail if they tried to replicate it?
Ooh, gosh. If you look at our strategy now or strategy when we first launched?
Today.
Today? Mm. Oh, that's a tough question. Do you know what? I think I'm going to give you a really cheeky answer. I honestly think that actually timing and the luck has a lot to play in this.
Yeah.
If someone actually replicated exactly as how we are now, they could probably, become a business that's 5 times, 10 times bigger than we are in 2 years' time, just because of the timing and the luck or the connections they have, where they might die within a week with exactly the same strategy, exactly the same, even the product range or whatever. And I always sometimes think that, you look at successful business people, they have exited, for example, by now. But if they have used the same strategy and launched that brand nowadays, would it succeed? And I think it's a different story. And I think it will be a different question. It really is a timing thing. You launch something and then you have the existing customers and you tell the story. But, whether it works or not, I don't think the strategy, it counts for something, but it doesn't count for everything.
Mm-hmm. And what part of the business still keeps you up at night, even now?
Cash flow.
Always.
Yeah, cash flow is keeping us up at night. And also, I think D2C, I don't want it to affect me personally, but I think, like your audience probably relate to this. You really do get affected because you're monitoring so closely on a daily basis. And then the fluctuation, when it's not stable, when it's not consistent, when the whole platform becomes a bit of a casino, it does affect you mentally. So I try to separate it. I try to put that in a different box and then try not to worry too much about it and try not to let it affect me. And also over time that me and Shane, we learned to have a slightly healthier perspective when we look at the business. I think being kept up at night it shouldn't be a badge of honor for business people. I don't think that is, a lot of people sort of say them, busy and I don't sleep and things like that. Joking aside, it's not sustainable. And I don't believe that we're put on this earth to enjoy like that. We're supposed to enjoy it. If you're not enjoying every day, then what's the point?
Yeah.
And I do see a lot of brands, owners going, X is there. That's my goal. In the meantime, I'm just going to stick with it and I'm going to enjoy this because that might not happen.
Yeah.
That might only happen 1 in 1,000 business, who knows? So if that doesn't happen, so what? You're wasting all these years suffering, sacrificing, compromising, and why? So we have learned to have a slightly healthier perspective, just focusing on today's task, enjoy what I'm doing. Like right now, I'm enjoying talking to you. I'm enjoying, nice sunshine in London and having a bit of a day out of the office. And that's great. And that's a day, that's a win for me. Like there are some challenges. I'm sure there's some fire for me to fight in the background. I'm sure.
But you've not got your phone on you.
Yeah, I'll deal with it. So I have a trick with the D2C nowadays is that I don't look at my D2C performance until the next morning now.
Yeah, because you can't always change it on the day anyway.
No, you can't. And also it's just going to affect me. So the next morning, if it was really bad the day before, the day's already gone. I have a new day and I can be more optimistic about today's performance. And if it's actually really good, I start the day with an even better outlook, for the new day. So I feel like if you did that, then it's win-win then, isn't it? You're not going to get affected too much by it and not going to get distracted by it.
And are you obsessed with checking metrics, conversion, all your figures from every single platform that you're on? Is that like a big chunk of like your day-to-day is like spent looking, analysing, quizzing what's happened? Or
yeah, you got to have that kind of level of details, I think. And not necessarily doing like a spreadsheet and graph and every minute of the day, but we focus on a few, all the acronyms that I can think of, all the key metrics that we do look at. We have this daily tracker that we're filling every morning, and then we know where we are exactly with our month to date and with the performance and stuff like that. And cash flow, I think we look at, actually one of the investors, when we first brought them on board, and then she told me that when they were running their business, they're looking at cash flow twice a day. I mean, that's how close they are with their cash, because it can change that quickly. And obviously they're at a different scale, but we look at it at least once a day, at least a few times a week. And I think it's just you really have to be that close to your numbers you just can't be not nonchalant about it.
I suppose it allows you to pivot as well then, if you need to make changes, or like you're not waiting for like a weekly report to tell you something that you should have known days ago.
Yeah, and actually that gave you a bit of a single source of truth as well, because if you know that you're losing money, or if you know that actually cash flow wise it's taking a bit of a hit because of the instability on the platform, or there's an outage again with Meta, or for example, all of that noise where people are saying that you leave it for 7 days and look at the metrics and stuff like that. Yes, there's a truth in it, but if you have the single source of truth being your financial situation, your cash flow, then you can make a decision to say, well, actually, for the best of interest of the business, I can pause it for a day. I can pivot, I can reduce, I can scale. Those decisions are made with the real facts that actually from a business best interest, rather than any kind of theories from agencies or gurus or anyone else, because that method work for them might not work for you. And there's too many noises as well. There's too much. So you might as well just basically do the decision based on what you can or cannot afford.
Yeah.
Whether it's the right decision or not is completely irrelevant, because for you, that is the right decision.
And so what's next for you guys? What's the plans for like this year? What's the plans for the next 5 years?
Next is some lunch, actually, because like probably hear my stomach going. For the business, I think, you know, we're continuing to expand our international footprint, but carefully and selectively, because we're not about planting flags, and we would like to select the market knowing the partner is the right partner. We're very selective in terms of who we work with, and then trying to develop that deeper and really maturize the market, and then we move on to something else, because we only have limited resources. We don't want to stretch ourselves too thin.
Are you managing the individual markets between the co-founders, or do you have someone on the team that looks after the internationalization piece?
Yeah, we split responsibility. So mainly Shane looked after international distribution, but I looked after a few markets. But China, for example, is his baby, so he will look after that. We also have Emmeline, who's our BD person, and she looks after the relationship as well. So we'll all split the responsibilities. But the good thing with the distributor is that, you know, it's not hands off, but it's quite a light touch, that you provide the support as a brand. You have a catch up every week, but the actual operation is their back. You know, you leave them to it. So it doesn't really take too much of our effort, but we just don't want to neglect them, you know, once you have launched in that market.
Well, yeah, because it's a bit of a waste doing all of that legwork to get in there for it not to not like work and nurture the relationship that you've built, I imagine.
Yeah, exactly. And some of the markets we launched and didn't work. You know, some of them would work. But you still have to put in the effort to make sure that there's a sell-through and a support the distributor. It's not always going to be successful. You know, you probably will have more markets that don't work than the ones that do. But you just have to keep developing it and keep expanding. And in China is another focus point for us. It's quite a crucial year this year. Chinese economy hasn't been great for the last year. So, you know, spending over there has been reduced. So, you know, as a premium brand, you want to give the distributors support, whatever they need, whether that's breathing space, whether that is free stock for additional marketing investment, anything that we can afford within our ability, we have to, you know, because you have to create a win-win, right? There's no, you're a partner in this relationship. So that will be one of the focuses that we want to focus on. I mean, our BB cream is still the number one selling import men's cosmetic product on Tmall in China. But we think the ceiling is still, you know, higher. So we want to develop that even further, and whether there's any new product development opportunity for example, we want to know about that, and yeah, just to kind of go deeper into those markets.
Nice. And then 5-year plan?
Who knows? Who knows? Like I said, the only thing that's certain is the plan will never stick, right? So I think, you know, going back to what I said earlier, focusing on today, and me and Shane actually for the last couple of years, you know, some close points to burnout. You know, we have learned, let's not, yes, you have a 3-year, 5-year forecast, you have this kind of plan, but you don't look at it too. You don't use that as a benchmark. You know, you just focus on today. Who knows what's going to happen in 3 or 5 years' time, right? You know, World War III might break out tomorrow, and then we're all screwed. I can't swear on your podcast, but can I?
Of course you can.
I've been holding back all this time.
We're all grown up here.
You know what I'm like? You know, you've seen me talking before, and I'm actually holding back. I'm trying to bite my tongue. So, you know, like, who knows what's going to happen, right? So I think we learn to focus on today. And I feel like because like, you know, the future is a stack of today, isn't it? Like every day forms the future. Like, you know, today is yesterday's future, right? So if I want my future to be good, I just need to have today, make sure today is a good day.
Yeah.
And overall, I have a really good future. I think that is a quite good way to look at it.
I do as well, because you can't live in the future either.
No.
I think sometimes as a founder, or, you know, someone that cares a lot about something, you're constantly thinking about what's next, rather than appreciating where you are now and setting yourself up for that success as and when it comes.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, there's no point to stress over things that might not happen and has already happened. So I just, you know, what's the point?
Just live in the moment, live in the day.
Totally.
And if you could leave yourself one honest note for your past self on the day that you launched Shakeup, what would it say?
Buckle up. Buckle the fuck up.
You're in for a wild, wild ride.
You are in for, and to be honest with you, we had mentors who are exited founders, and when we had the dinner, when we decided that we're going to do this together, and they did say it's going to be a roller coaster, and it will get tough.
Yeah.
You will stress the shit out of you. And look, I ran a business before this, and I ran the agency for 12 years, and that was hard as well. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you're agency owner yourself, you know it, but it's a different level of stress.
Yeah.
It really is a different level of stress, and I think I would like to, you hear about these things, but unless you experience it, you really don't know.
No.
And I think it will toughen you up. You really will toughen you up, but hopefully for the better. Mm-hmm. Hopefully this is like growth spurt. So this is growth process, rather than a breaking down process.
Yeah.
And I refuse to let it become one of those.
Because you'll get past one milestone and one problem and one challenge, and then break through it. Everything will be good again, and then something else will come along. And I think that's just entrepreneurship, isn't it?
I think it is. It's the resilience, and it's just, not being able to deal with things calmly.
Yeah.
And one phrase that both Shane and I really like nowadays, like recently, is let the bullet fly for a little longer. Mm-hmm. Just let things play out a little bit. Don't feel like you need to immediately respond. Don't need to knee jerk. Don't need to panic. Things have a way to work itself out for the good or for bad. Like if there's certain things that's about to happen that's just disastrous, you can't stop and control, you can't do anything about it anyway.
Yeah.
You're like, pulling your hair out is not going to do anything.
No.
So I think if that's one thing I want to give myself a bit of advice is that one is to buckle up, and then two is that things will take longer and then things will get hard, but and just don't take anything too personally.
Yeah.
Just don't take it on too personally.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is a business, and it just deal with it calmly. And usually when I do that, things work out.
Take a step back, have a breather, and then come back to it.
Yeah, very much that.
Well, that was amazing. You were brilliant, and
Thank
I think
you.
you gave so many pearls of wisdom that, it was really enjoyable.
I hope so. I can't say that it's wisdom, but it's just pure experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, nobody knows everything, and I don't know anything, and to be honest, all I know is actually if I share my experience, I know how much I benefit from other people sharing their experiences.
Of course, yeah.
Hopefully that's going to be helpful.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
DTC Live On Air is powered by Bright Pill by Sage.